Hey, just having fun here. There's a thing we forget when we practice stuff, is that we forget that we practice something in this area, and then we practice something over here, but then we forget to connect it, and then we wonder why we can't. And one very good example of that is the ability to play a riff, right? And then to put notes in between the riff. So we have something going on down here, right? Right? And that's shifting between playing single notes and scale shapes, and then playing power chords, or maybe you have a riff that consists of both actually. Right? And then if you practice a riff that consists of more than one thing, then it seems to be, not that big of a problem. But when we try to put fills in between riffs and improvise, it seems almost impossible. But that's because we haven't trained ourselves to actually go from having that power chord or chords feeling in our hand to having the single notes. So we can't make the transition fast enough in our brain. It has to shift gears. And because it isn't used to shifting gears that fast, because either one, you're playing that riff and you're having, and then it's your time to solo. But you know already, okay, it's coming up in a couple of bars here, okay, then I'm into it. And then you play the solo, right? And then you get to, hang on a note, and then you go right back into the riff. But if you want it to go back and forth on it, you have to practice it. So how do you do that? Well, you could take something simple, and that's a very, very good idea when you practice. Just focus on something that is the central core challenge, right? Design an exercise that is the challenge, without all the other details around it, and then just focus on that intensely, right? Because then you'll actually, learn much faster. The more details and all kinds of irrelevant stuff you have in the exercise, the longer it will take you. So instead of playing a riff that has single notes in it, then design an exercise like this. Say, okay, what we want to do is go from this feeling, playing rhythm down here, to something up here and single notes, right? So let's just play one of these, or let's say like, and then have a break in between so we have a little time to shift, right? I'm just doing an E and a G power chord, right? And then play, and then don't start to improvise, just play a couple of notes. Oh, that's good. Okay, let's try it again. And even slower if you need to, right? Or you can do even something even simpler, like. I'm improvising here, I shouldn't be, because I need to focus on the actual challenge. Or you can go even deeper than that and say, okay, I'm just going to play one power chord and one note. That's really focusing, like. This really works, I promise you. Now I have an ultra sharp focus on the challenge itself. And then I start slow and I do perfect all the way. Don't start making a lot of mistakes thinking that if you do a lot of mistakes enough times, then you'll finally get it. It doesn't work like that. Instead, you're practicing making mistakes, right? So you go. Use a metronome if you must to keep the tempo. But if you focus on precision and accuracy here and doing it perfectly at a slow speed or a low level of tempo, then you will actually progress the fastest. So if you have the concentration and the focus here, in 5 or 10 minutes, you could be going, right? Then selecting something a little more complex, after 15 minutes of practicing. And I promise you, within a couple of days of doing this, because you focus on the real challenge, you'll be absolutely right? You'll be able to go back and forth rapidly because the only reason why you couldn't is because you haven't really practiced it as a one thing with one focus, and then just, that's what we do, right? We take, instead of having a ton of challenges, practicing those at one time, we take just one out, and then we, right? And we kill it. And so we can get on with a new challenge. So I promise you, this will absolutely work. It will disintegrate this challenge very rapidly if you really make it your mission. And you can do so in a couple of days.